The womb is where a lot of things have happened that perhaps, again, we don't even know. So the imprints of the womb, we can kind of feel what's happened once we go back and then release those imprints, whether it's from the mother, the external environment, anything that, again, has affected us whilst we were in the womb and now affects us in our adult life. So I find that a bit more powerful than the past life sometimes.
That's actually so interesting, and I believe that, because I don't know if I've ever shared this story with you about when I took mushrooms.
So with kids specifically, I work with art therapy because their expression is also very different from us. They feel in their fullness, and for them to put something down on paper and to be able to see it, for me, is also much more transformative.
And so oftentimes I've heard you talk about shadow work in your ceremonies. What is shadow work?
So shadow work is huge.
Welcome to The Search for Wellness, the podcast where we explore what it truly means to live a healthier, more fulfilling life. Each episode, we dive into inspiring stories, eye-opening conversations, and practical tools to help you nourish your mind, strengthen your body, and uplift your spirit. This is your space to learn, grow, and discover new ways to thrive one step at a time. So guys, today I would love to introduce you to a very, very, very special lady who's actually been on the podcast before. In season 1, she was on, I can't remember which episode it was, but you definitely have to go and listen to that one because she's a wisdom of knowledge and she's our little butterfly. That's what we like to call her. So I'd like to introduce Chandvi.
No, thank you for having me back. I'm happy. I'm always happy to be back.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here as always. Chandvi, first of all, I'd like you to introduce yourself and just tell people what you do for the people who don't know already what you do.
Yeah. I'm a holistic trauma therapist and I predominantly work with regression therapy, family constellations, and then we also do ceremony. What that means is anyone who's been through anything, any trauma of any extent, and is really ready to meet their root and uncover what's happened to come into transformation. We guide them through a very gentle process through, again, inner child healing, womb healing, ancestral healing, or past life therapy. And then comes a lot of acknowledgement, a lot of release, and I guess catharsis. So that's predominantly what I do. And then, of course, the ceremonies. I hold plant medicine ceremonies, cacao, other plant medicines that we can speak about later. And it's from the tradition of the Cacao tradition in Peru and from Mexico as well. And yeah, that's...
And how many years have you been doing this for?
Wow. It'll be 10 years, I think, for regression. And then we've worked with plant medicines for 7 years now. So this is formal training. And then prior to the 10 years, I've worked with healing modalities, all this chakra work and all of the Indian modalities and healing modalities since I was really little. So maybe since I was around 16 years old is when I first was introduced to the healing world. Yeah.
And why would you say you chose this path?
Oh, I don't know if I consciously chose it.
Or if it chose you, right?
I think it chose me. I've always known that I wanted to be a therapist of some sort. I never knew how or what. And it actually accidentally fell into my life. When I was 23, I decided to quit my job and travel. And as I was traveling, I actually came across a group of art therapists in Peru. And that was my first introduction, also confirmation that I wanted to do art therapy. And as I was traveling, I kept meeting different healers and different shamans, maestras, pacos through this journey. And they started teaching me things. So I started learning a little bit of what they were offering. And then I went to India. And in India, I thought I was receiving hypnotherapy. I didn't know that I was signed up to a hypnotherapy training course.
So you happen to, okay.
And I didn't believe in any of it. I didn't think it would ever work. And the teacher was like, why don't you come and be the first demo? So I said, okay, this is never going to work on me. It was 2 minutes into it. I was under hypnosis, and it was the most life-changing and transformative experience I've ever had. And I'm grateful now that I trained as a hypnotherapist, because it was a real eye opener to addressing a lot of trauma that I didn't even know that I had. And that was what paved the path to then, training in different modalities and opening up spaces that I never even knew existed. So
Wow. How interesting. And let's step into the regression therapy. So what is regression therapy?
So regression therapy is all about going back into a past experience. It doesn't always have to be a traumatic experience, any past experience, and finding the root of what has happened.
Okay.
So let's say I'm feeling really unworthy, and I don't know why or what's caused me feeling unworthy. So we travel back to perhaps an inner child or a part of us that has had this experience for the very first time, and we find all the physical sensations, emotional anchors, beliefs and decisions that we've made that made us believe that I'm unworthy, what was said, what was done. And then we, again, unravel and uncover all of that. And our truth is that we are more than worthy. So what made us believe that we're unworthy? So we acknowledge all of that and start to release through maybe breath work or somatic release, or literally just visualizing and seeing that this is not me. This is what I needed to do. So it's all about nurturing that inner child. So nurturing the part of us that was feeling a certain way and releasing that part of us that was kind of exiled into, whatever it may have been. And through that catharsis is we free ourselves, we literally liberate ourselves and come back into a place of either homeostasis or peace. And I just find it really gentle yet extremely powerful, because again, it doesn't have to be difficult, and neither are you reliving a trauma. You're addressing it from a perspective as the adult that you are today, rather than the child that you had experienced it when it had happened. So the different perspective also helps really see what happened rather than remember what happened. So it really takes the charges out of our body.
And how deep can you go into regression therapy? For instance, like I've heard that people can see, like you can actually go into their past lives and see what happened to them in their past lives.
Yeah.
So that you can heal that trauma, so that in this life they can live a better life. Or you can even go into regression therapy where, let's say if they lost a loved one, they can still connect. Is that true?
Yeah. So again, like with past lives, there's so many things that we've experienced that we don't know. I usually say different for different people, but if we don't have to go there, then we don't need to, because we also live in this life.
Yeah.
But if something's really deeply rooted that is just not releasing, or you're not finding the root in this life, then definitely necessary to go into a past life. And again, through that past life, it's beautiful, because you're not just healing that trauma, you're also receiving a gift, because we all have gifts from, each part of our lives, each part of, what we've lived. And you're now bringing a gift back from that life that possibly you can use in this life. So I think it's quite beautiful to be able to do both, heal the trauma, but also receive something that you can offer maybe the world or to yourself or your family.
Yeah.
And definitely also the womb. The womb is where a lot of things have happened that perhaps, again, we don't even know. So the imprints of the womb, we can kind of feel what's happened once we go back, and then release those imprints, whether it's from the mother, the external environment, anything that again has affected us whilst we were in the womb and now affects us in our adult life. So I find that a bit more powerful than the past life sometimes.
That's actually it's so interesting, and and I believe that, because I don't know if I've ever shared this story with you about when I took mushrooms, when I took a very heavy dose that I didn't know how heavy it was. I actually ended up back in my mother's womb.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was really freaky though.
Yeah.
At that point, it was very scary. It wasn't amazing.
It's quite
because I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah.
Every time I closed my eyes, I saw myself in this liquidy bubble, but then from inside, it looked like a honeycomb.
Oh,
and it was also like, it had that, orangish, reddish color. And there was, the light was penetrating in and out, and it was like a water body. So it was like moving in and out. And then I'd open my eyes and be like, okay, what the hell was that? What the hell was that?
Yeah.
But then once after I went through it, I spoke to the guy who had given me the mushrooms, and he was like, that sounds like you were in your mother's womb. Mm-hmm. And then he asked me, did anything happen? And then I spoke to my mom and I asked her, and yes, things did happen apparently when I was in her stomach. And I was like, okay, so maybe I healed that while I was taking the psychedelic, but at that moment I didn't know. I don't know, is that right? Like,
I fully believe that, because I think, again, like, our body knows where we need to go. And again, with or without plant medicine, our body just knows. And when we trust our body to go there, it'll show us exactly what we need to see in order for us to heal, move forward, do whatever we need to do to kind of release ourselves and be liberated. And 100%, I think it's definitely the womb and kind of being in this space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So powerful, right? The imprint that can have on your life.
Exactly.
And it's so unknown.
This is it.
So it's so important to do, regression and practices like this to be able to heal from the womb, which is like something I never even thought of before.
And it can also start like preconception and, why or what was happening to our parents preconception, and then during conception sometimes gets a little bit foggy there, and then the descent of us into the womb space. And every month is so different. So scientifically, we're developing so differently each month, but also emotionally and I guess spiritually as well. There's something that happens in each month, and sometimes when we uncover those imprints and as well as attachments, then again, for me, life has always been about liberating everything that I've kind of gone through and just coming into a place of stillness. So it's not about joy or happiness, it's just about being still, and then I can choose whatever I want to feel. So for me, going through that process was literally about liberating myself from each month, and then finally I'm here in this life. So
wow.
It was, it's
Can you do regression therapy on kids?
So it's a little bit difficult. So because kids don't have a filter before they're in their minds, before the age of 9, it's a little bit difficult because they need that filter to kind of go into their unconscious mind. But after the age of 9 or 11, then it's possible, but also a bit delicate, because first, do they need it? And are there any other gentler modalities that they can use? So with kids specifically, I work with art therapy because their expression is also very different from us. They feel in their fullness, and for them to put something down on paper and to be able to see it, for me, is also much more transformative. And for them, it's when they can see that they can then make sense of it. Whereas if it's stuck in their minds and they're going into their bodies, it can be a little overwhelming.
So how does the art therapy work? Yeah,
so there's different, again, parts to the art therapy. So depending on whatever the child is going through, I use a lot of storytelling because, again, children love stories.
Yeah.
And stories have a journey, and so does a child in whatever that they're experiencing. And the metaphor of the story also gives them some sort of identification with, the hero of the story or whoever it may be, and helps them heal through storytelling. So we go through different stages of the story, and we either rewrite it in their own words or paint it, or make little clay objects and kind of reenact the story. And through that reenacting, they have the healing, and they also are like, there's a gift, or this character is stuck over here, so we need to help this character. So for them, it's using their imagination, which is much stronger than ours as adults, to find their way of, again, freeing themselves from whatever that they're going through. And the one thing that I love doing with children is it's something called wet on wet painting. So we have a really wet paper and then a lot of wet watercolor paint. And when they're like painting and moving their brush through the water, they're connecting deeper to their emotions.
Wow.
And through that, again, you don't even need to voice or, name the emotions. They're just physically putting it out on the paper. So after they leave, there's just a sense of lightness and a good emptiness that they feel. So then they're so much more in their power to take their next step. And children I feel like they're much more resilient and much more stronger than us. So they have, ways that they'll pay for themselves after they've come into lightness.
And then when are you doing your next one so I can send my child or my children?
Hopefully next year. We need to get that sorted.
No, definitely. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I do remember, I think my first cacao ceremony with you, we did art therapy.
You did.
And you paired people up, and my partner was your mom.
Oh, yes, of course.
And it was beautiful. It was absolutely, I did feel like exactly what you said. Yeah. I felt like I was releasing these emotions through that paper.
Yeah.
Which is very magical.
Yeah. It just gets us out of our head.
Yeah.
And we come into our body, and it's, again, we don't have to think. Our hands of paintbrushes is a wand, so we can just put it in the paper.
It's beautiful. Talking about ceremonies, so, cacao ceremony has become very like aesthetic. It's like one of those things where people go and it's like light, it's pretty, it's set up with beautiful bowls, flowers, petals. But what is beneath that? And, on a deeper and on a more emotional and spiritual path, what is actually beneath that real purpose of the ceremony and the real purpose of the healing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think people come for ceremony, and likewise, I've been to ceremony purely to get stillness, to have silence, to kind of go within and find the answers and kind of come out of this overwhelming state. And I think what's happened recently is that there's been a very blurred line between circles and gatherings and ceremony. I really believe that ceremony is much more deeper than, again, like the beautiful aesthetic, the Instagram pictures, or whatever you kind of see online. It's about dissolving the veils and the masks of what we've been carrying within us and also around us, and really being able to see and face the truth of who we are, no matter how beautiful, no matter how ugly, but knowing that we're in a space that all parts of us are fully accepted and also are allowed to be present. So, the angry, the most hurt, the most joyful, the most sad, all those parts of us are welcome in that space. And I think what's also happened is that the circles have become very curated and created, whereas ceremony, we kind of enter into ceremony without having any idea of what's going to come up. And that's the beauty of it, the unknown, the mystery, the curiosity, but also knowing that you are so well equipped to be in that space because, again, you've chosen to come there and it's for a reason. And I remember as we were traveling this year, we really learned a lot more about ceremony. So for example, in Guatemala, ceremony is only called ceremony when you have a fire that's created in the middle. And it's a fire that you offer things to the fire. And as the smoke rises, it's everything that you're looking for, your intentions are rising to the heavens. And then as we went to Peru, it's such a beautiful prayer that they offer before the start of anything. So already they've created a ceremony by just having intention and prayer. And then even in Mexico, there's songs and smudging the space to kind of neutralize any heaviness or lightness that's in the space. And now we can create, and step into the ceremonial space. So I definitely don't think that it's beautiful in the sense of, what we think is beautiful. I think it's just truth. It's just real. And it is what it is when we enter into the space.
And I feel like in every tradition, there is some form of ceremony, because even if you think about it, when you talked about the fire, the first thought that came to my mind was when in us, we do these ceremonies too. Exactly. We have a oven and then we put all these herbs and these spices in there and we sit there and essentially we're supposed to sit there with intention. We're supposed to sit there with focus. Oftentimes that's not what happens. Everyone is just distracted and everyone's like, what's going on? Okay, just throw things in the fire. There's no background check and there's no real meaning given to why you're doing it.
Exactly.
But then knowing why you're doing it and going there with that clear intention, exactly. I think it's also quite relevant, right?
100%. I think to have an intention with anything that you're doing is key. And that will also help uncover, answers to your questions or bring clarity. And again, I think the biggest thing as to why we go into ceremony is to have clear vision, to receive clarity on something that we question within ourselves.
Yeah. And so oftentimes I've heard you talk about shadow work in your ceremonies. What is shadow work?
So shadow work is huge. So we all have shadow aspects inside of us. The shadows inside of us are parts of ourselves that we've repressed or denied or rejected. And it's perhaps due to a childhood wounding or trauma that we've experienced. And as we've grown up, we've decided, I don't want this part. So we kind of literally squash it, hide it, forget about it completely, and just move on with life. And then suddenly as an adult, you're like, why am I feeling so undeserving? Why am I unlovable? Why do I constantly give so much, but I'm not being given in return? Why do I feel so much shame, rage, anger? So all these circumstances of what we've experienced start to come up, and these are our shadow aspects. We usually are sometimes scared to access these parts of us because of what has happened and what we think it might bring us. But in reality, our shadow aspects are probably the most powerful parts of us. They hold, again, the biggest gifts, the biggest powers, the biggest fragments of who we are. So when they all come together into integration, it's such a beautiful part of us, but we've named them as ugly. So in ceremony, because the veils dissolve, the shadow parts of us come up. And that's when we're faced with parts of us that perhaps we never wanted to see or we don't want to see. And as we're in this space, we have to face them. How? There's so many ways of how this can happen. And in ceremony, so it's different in ceremony and in therapy, specifically with me. In ceremony, I kind of allow the space for the shadows to arise. And for each person present, you kind of go through the journey as we go through the journey of ceremony. And then in one-to-one sessions, in regression or art therapy or family constellations, we kind of address them, because the moment that you acknowledge and see and really name the shadow part, it takes the power away from the ugly aspect that we've named of it. So it's as if we're naming that, I felt so unworthy. This part of me feels so unworthy. So what does it need? It just needed to be seen. It just needed to be acknowledged. It just needed an embrace. And then we kind of investigate a little bit as well. So why did we feel like this? What happened to us that made us feel like we needed to squash ourselves or, repress this part of us, not see ourselves in our fullness? And that's when we kind of perhaps return to a memory or an experience. And then we're now given a choice. Do we want to nurture this part of us? Do we want to release it from the constraints of that which it was imprisoned in? And do we just want to give it a lot of love?
Yeah.
And the moment that you do, that's when, again, the catharsis, the rest happens, and we're just in so much more fullness and peace.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then also, I guess in ceremonies, as a facilitator, I've noticed this inside of myself, and I guess I've witnessed this as well. It brings us so many shadows in myself. As a facilitator, a few examples is there's, as a facilitator, I know there's moments where I want to fix and rescue the person in need. They're going through such a difficult time. I can see it. And I just want to run there and be like, it's going to be okay. It's everything will be fine. I want to hold you. I will hold you. But then I have to take a step back and be like, it's not my journey. I can be here to hold the space, but it's for you to be able to go through that process, because I also don't know what you need unless you tell me. And then another shadow is, I've definitely witnessed this authority, inflation, leadership aspect of a facilitator, that I know what you need. I know that because I'm holding the space, that this is what you need to do. And you're kind of taking away the choice and the responsibility that they can finally take for themselves and, do exactly what they need, for them again to receive again what they need. And another aspect, I've definitely gone through this one recently, is where and it's also one of my biggest shadows, is where I kind of make myself really small and I doubt myself, am I doing the right thing? Should I have done this? Or, do I have enough tools or skills? And it's definitely in moments where I know that I should really be in my fullness, in my power. And I have the tools, I have the skills to guide people through their journey and let them do what they need. And if something comes up, I know what I need to do in order to, help or, clear the energy or whatever it is that's happening in the invisible realms. Because I think more happens in the invisible realms than the visible realms. And as a facilitator, we also have to remember that there's that line. We have to watch everything, even though we can't see with our eyes. We have to kind of watch the subtleties of what's going on, and that can't be controlled. And sometimes that's a shadow that comes up, that we have to control this because perhaps we don't have the capacity or feel like we have the capacity to do what needs to be done if things don't go our way. Nothing is ever going to go our way. And we have to be prepared to just allow things to happen. And I think that being in a space where we can be in full integrity, in full trust, and also have a lot of humility, knowing that whatever will come up and we have the ability to hold. And also to know that the people in that space will always be in safety, in holding. I think that's the biggest gift that we can give them, and also for ourselves to remember that we don't have to be inflated or, diminished or all these other shadows, but we can just be in in full trust, in full faith, and full integrity.
But so now, like you said, that the one of your main shadows, you said, is sometimes to make yourself small,
Yeah.
right? I feel like that's also one of mine. Is sometimes I feel like I have a lot of self-doubt. I can doubt myself. But like, do you think I'm capable of doing this? I don't know. Am I capable? You know, like that.
Yeah.
But then, can you heal from those shadows eventually, or do they keep creeping back up?
Absolutely. I think so. Whenever I speak about healing in general, it's not that something will never happen again. So we'll still be faced with the triggers of, being small. So we'll be placed in situations that, it's going to remind you that, this is a part of you that's wounded and you're going to be small. It's about how we show up. So we can heal, and then we're presented with a situation. What do? Do we speak up? Do we make ourselves, not big, but in a place where we're in the fullness of ourselves, where we're in full power, that we're not having to walk away or withdraw, and really come into a space where we can be seen again. And that's definitely something that I've had to work on constantly, where instead of in moments where I felt small, I either quiver, like literally make myself physically small,
Yeah.
or hide away. And I've had to, as uncomfortable as it is, I've had to speak up. I've had to take space. I've had to really show that I also deserve to be here, and also deserve to, speak and share, and I also know what I'm doing. I have to really remind myself all of these things. So it's not that the situations will never be presented. We'll have the triggers, but it's how we choose to address it this time round. And that kind of takes away from the power of the shadow and brings you. So for me, the opposite of me playing small is literally to take space. And so I have to consciously remind myself, it's safe for me to take space. It's safe for me to have space. And I also deserve the space that I have. So I have to consciously remind myself that always.
And you're right, the triggers are going to happen. The triggers are going to be there. Somebody might put you in that corner and make you feel small. But that's just the tests from the universe. It's how we reflect on it ourselves.
Yeah.
That's what counts the most and the most important thing. And you're right about the triggers. It's like anything and everything in life, we're going to have those triggers.
Yeah.
But how we show up for ourselves and remind ourselves. I think also the thing in this is also that consciously being so aware that, this is my old pattern and I need to break away from this pattern. How can I break away from this pattern?
Exactly.
And come out into and hold space, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And it's so often that this happens. And it's not only to us. I'm pretty sure this happens to many people, right? It's one of those things that's so common. The self-doubt especially. I think that specific shadow is probably the one shadow that follows probably every single human being around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think you nailed it in terms of the more aware that we are through the, whichever modality, therapy, ceremony, the more aware we are, we're now able to be so conscious of how we choose to do something. So more awareness, more healing, and we show up as who we truly are.
Yeah. And how has that shaped you as a person, in the sense that you're Kenyan Indian and you do all these ceremonies, you facilitate in so many different modalities. How has that been intertwined into your culture, into your traditions, to your roots?
I think being Kenyan Indian was a huge thing, in the sense of there was a lot of rejection for me being Indian at all from when I was younger, maybe till I was 18. And it came from, being shamed as being Indian and just a lot of things with shame. And it was only after, I think maybe a few years after I was 18, did I realize how special it was to have such old rooted traditions that I've seen my grandma, my mum, be a part of in their everyday life. And I started really appreciating that, wow, like we have like the power of prayer, the power of, again, the fire, the havans, the fire ceremonies. Again, we used to do so many water ceremonies at home as well. So all these have such strong, I think, definitions of why we do all of these things, that I started really understanding that, okay, my tradition, my culture is more of an asset than it is anything else. And what I'm sure unconsciously I rooted and I kind of went down the South American path because I didn't want to look at the Indian tradition at all. And it was only when I started learning about both, I was like, they're so intertwined.
Yeah.
The chakra system is the same. So in South America, in the Cacao tradition, they call it the Pok pose. Exactly the same. The way that they do the earth and the fire ceremonies, exactly the same. And it was so beautiful to be able to appreciate both cultures that I also feel so lucky to be able to hold, again, the Indian tradition and just being Indian, and then finally having the wisdom of South American traditions. So it's honestly such an honor to be able to weave both together and to be able to bring the wisdom of different parts of the world and then offer it in the space that we try to create. And we try to create our ceremonies as traditionally as we can, because again, there was a reason as to why any culture did something in a certain way.
Yeah.
And to take away from that, I feel is quite dishonoring. And so we try to keep it as traditional as we possibly can.
And I absolutely see that in all your ceremonies, and I absolutely love attending all of them all the time. And I see the connection too between the Indian and the South American traditions, and I also feel drawn to both. So tell me more about cacao. So what does cacao do? How does cacao work? Yeah,
it's the best.
It is.
So cacao, if I talk about the metaphysical, spiritual aspects of it first, it's all about opening the heart. And again, all the traditions came together by a fire on certain days of the year. And they would speak to the fire as they drank the cacao, which would make them a conduit, a vessel of light. And from the fire, they would receive the wisdom or whatever it is that they were praying for. But it was also a coming together of families, of tribes, and an honoring of the earth, the sky, the elements. So that's a huge part of a ceremony or cacao in general. It brings people together. And as you open your heart, you're able to now witness parts of you and woundings as well as gifts of you that, again, you didn't know that you had or that you're ready to reconnect to. And cacao is so gentle, yet so powerful. She kind of weaves through your body so gently to embrace the wounds or embrace the parts of you that were scared or whatever had happened. And she then just feeds you with a lot of love through her embrace. And ever so slowly, the masks, the veils fall away through her embrace and you get to the root. So right at the bud of the rose, let's say, you're now unraveling all of you and she's showing you who you really are. And she does it in the most gentle way. So it's not forceful where you have to see, like other plant medicines make you see. She slowly guides you until you're ready. And the healing just doesn't stop. It carries on for days after. And physically as well, it's a vasodilator. So your arteries and veins get bigger. So the blood rushes through your body even faster. When blood rushes through your body, oxygen moves through your body. So automatically you're also healing physically because the more oxygen in the body, the more healing you're going to receive. And it also has so many properties. Theobromine, which is the bliss molecule, anandamide, which is the happy molecule, releases serotonin, dopamine, magnesium, zinc. So it's beautiful for the body in general to give it the nutrients and the minerals that it needs. I could literally talk about cacao
forever.
forever. Yeah, it's
And
like,
which other modalities do you use for, like, you know, I know I like cacao, but what is the other ones that you use also?
modalities.
Like, not modalities, which other plant medicines
Plant
do you
medicines.
use? Yeah.
So I work a lot with rose
Yeah.
and bobinsana. So bobinsana is another such a beautiful plant from the Amazon, which is all about the heart. So to heal grief, to really understand forgiveness, and to again really heal the heart. We also work with mushrooms and wachuma, which is a Peruvian cactus. From the high Andes.
Interesting.
And again, I think for me, these are very grounded plant medicines, and they just once again, it's very heart opening, very embodying, and really just allowing you to see your essence in the most gentle yet profound way.
And so do any of these have, like, okay, so mushrooms have that little bit of the psychedelic aspect to it. Do any of the other ones have anything psychedelic involved?
Wachuma as well, depending on how much you take. But it's for me, I've never had like a full psychedelic experience. I've had visions internally. But wachuma for me is the most embodying plant medicine in a way that it just shows you really who you are, and it's so gentle, so kind, and I again could just I wish I could show you how I feel when I sit with wachuma, but it just shows you who you are, your essence. So it reminds you who you are, and it really brings you home to yourself.
Ooh, I'd like to try that one. So is it like you drink it?
It's
also it's also a drink like cacao.
It's like you know those green smoothies that you never wanted to drink as a child? Tastes a bit like that.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful.
It's beautiful. Yeah. And can you give any of these to children?
So cacao, yes. Again, in very small doses, so 5 to 10 grams is a really good amount. I wouldn't give anything else to children just yet, because again, I think with plant medicine, there is no reason to have it unless you have a reason to work with it. So, but cacao is always really good because it gives them the nutrients and the minerals that they require.
This podcast was created to remind you that we are all on this wellness journey together. If you're enjoying these conversations here, I'd love for you to subscribe, share, and spread this love. Your support means the world to us, and it really helps this community grow. With gratitude, lots and lots of love, always. Talk to me about family constellation. I mean, you do so much. It's like, honestly, it's amazing. But like, what is family constellation?
I also love family constellations. So family constellations was found by a man named Bert Hellinger, and he had observed Zulu tribes in South Africa, and he really witnessed the amount of reverence that they had for their ancestral rituals and their ancestors in general, and how they would come together when something was happening, and how they would just pour love and connection in order to heal something. So when he created family constellations, he married the traditions of the Zulu tribe and what he had observed, plus, teachings from Freud, Jung, and other Gestalt therapies, to kind of make it a bit more concrete for the rest of the world that doesn't live in tribal spaces. So family constellations uncovers the unseen and the invisible and makes it visible. So for example, if there is something that's happened in my ancestral line, I'm obviously not going to know about what's happened, but I feel the ripples and the effects of whatever has happened back then now in my current life. And those ripples can look like anxiety, depression, relationship issues, illnesses, blocks, issues that are consistently happening to us. And what family constellation does is it, in the field, he calls it the matrix. things are objects or people are put into the matrix that represent, let's say, myself, the issue at hand, or my ancestors. And the person or the object intuitively represents and feels what's happening. So we kind of bypass our conscious mind and come into our unconscious mind. And through that, all the unconscious, forgotten, missing things that we don't know about are revealed. And in that revealing is when the healing once can happen. And what he says is when there's order in the chaos or the dysfunction, that's when there's much more healthier movement. So it's kind of like a dance that happens. The pieces are moved in a way that they need to be seen or acknowledged, and they feel that they're in the right order. And through that, again, massive transformation. It's really beautiful because we sometimes don't know that we hold burdens of our ancestors. And they also don't know that they've handed down these burdens. And the moment we release ourselves of these burdens is the moment where we can finally come back into ourselves and come back into, once again, who we are. So it has a lot of ancestral tradition and tribal tradition in the foundation of what it is. Plus, our conscious mind, we have to make sense of it. So there is a lot of sense that happens in the movement and the dance of these pieces.
And like if somebody came to you for a family constellation, do they do like one session? Do they do how many sessions? Does it depend?
Yeah, it definitely depends. So I always say do one session, then we wait, because energetically in the matrix, things happen now. But in our physical body, it still takes a lot of time for it to integrate into our physical body. So usually 2 to 3 weeks gap to see how it's changing. And then if necessary, then we can do another family constellation to see what needs to be moved again.
And why is it called family constellation? So it's only done with your family?
Not necessarily. So the way that I kind of make sense of it is our life is based on relationships.
Yeah.
And our first relationship is with our family. So our parents predominantly. And from there is where we receive ancestral wounding, our parental wounding, our womb wounding, and then our life wounding from our present lives. So when there's order in our family, that's when there can finally be order in our lives. So the most the most frequent thing that a lot of people come with is that there's dysfunction in their family and they don't understand why. And it's usually because the child has taken the parent role and the child is now parenting the parent and giving a lot of things to the parent, but they're not receiving it. So regardless of whether I'm 30, 33 and my parent is however old, I'm still the child of my parent. So it's about reclaiming this role of I am the child. I can receive from my parent and they can give to me. And if they can't give to me, it's okay because I'm still the child. So this is where the orders of love and the orders of our family dynamic now come in, because when we know where we stand in our family, we can now once again reclaim who we are and be who we are.
Are you able to share with me like an amazing transformation story?
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many. Recently, we did a family constellation for a really beautiful family who has two children, and one of the children is she has some sort of disability, and because the disability had come at a very later stage for her, the other child felt really neglected, really kind of just pushed in the corner and just not she's invisible now. And the dysfunction was that the child that was invisible had just gone completely into herself and was pretty much failing at school and just not being really who she was before all of this. And finally, when the transformation happened, it was the part of the transformation was that, or the invisible realms was that she was also grieving the death of a grandparent that they didn't realize that she was still grieving. So she was in grief. She was also in a lot of anger because she was invisible and no one was supporting her grief. And what they thought was the other child who had the disability, they thought that that was what was causing her chaos, let's say, or her feelings. But the moment that grief was addressed in the constellation and was released, she finally came back to her family. And so beautiful, because I think 2 nights after the constellation happened, the mum reached out to me and she said that they spoke about the death of the grandparent. And she was like, no one's ever asked me how I felt. He was the only grandparent or the person in her life that would ask her how she was and what she was feeling. And she lost that connection. So finally, when they came together and she spoke about it in her real life, that's when she started reintegrating back into her family system. So sometimes we think we know what's happening, but really it's something else, and how beautiful it can be when the transformation happens.
I know that you've like guided many people through trauma healing. And it's become a fad. Like, right? It's like, oh, I have trauma. I need to heal my trauma. What is actually like real trauma healing?
I think it's so true. I feel like everyone is doing something in the wellness space. And what is happening is, sometimes can't be fully integrated. I think the biggest thing about trauma healing is fine, you can come to therapy, fine, you can come to a ceremony, but the actual healing happens after. So it's not how many, let's say, ayahuasca journeys you've had or how many cacao ceremonies you've sat in. It's how you choose to integrate it into your real life. So you can receive all this wisdom, all these answers, but it really requires a lot of discipline, commitment, and also a real choice that I want to change. And it's hard in the sense of the moment that we have to consciously decide we want to change and be committed to it, that's what takes effort. I don't feel like the trauma healing itself has to be difficult. Of course it can be, but it doesn't have to be. But committing to yourself to make that change is what requires a discipline and the effort. I remember when I was going through my journey, I was like, why? I did this session and I changed in the session. So why is it still affecting me? And I remember my therapist being like, but what did you change in your real life? I was like, nothing at all. I would still cry about the same things. I would still do the same things. I still hung out with the same people or, chose to go into the same situations. I didn't change any of that. And I remember she told me, and I laugh at this now because I still do it now, is you need to have your rhythm or routine in the morning and at night, and that never changes. And the moment you have that, then whatever happens in the middle of the day, whether chaotic or not chaotic, you'll still find transformation because you have a solid morning and you have a solid evening. And I remember for 40 to 60 days, I did the same thing. I prayed every morning. I then did my meditation. I then chose to work on my boundaries because boundaries for me is one of the biggest difficulties. And I remember doing something for myself in the morning. And then at night, I did a reflection through my entire day. So I know in the next day, if I need to change something, if something happens, I know what I need to do now. And that still never changes. And that requires a lot of commitment.
40 to 60 days you did that. Wow.
Yeah. And consciously, if I missed a day, I would have to start again.
Oh, wow.
Because it's commitment really takes a lot of effort, and it's discipline as well. Like you have to kind of repeat the same thing over and over again for your body to know that, oh, okay, we're safe to change. We're safe to be in this new way of being, and we don't fall into the same old patterns that we did before. And it also shows you that, yeah, you can do it. So, and it's okay. It's safe for you to be able to try something different and change.
This whole safety thing made me think about something that I've noticed and this is probably a Nairobi thing. It's like most people don't show up to these ceremonies or to the healing or the gong baths, whatever. It's because their biggest fear is the person who's going to be there, the next person next time. Oh, but what if that person, I don't want to share about my life in front of this person or that person. I don't want to show my vulnerability, or I don't want to cry in front of this one. I don't want this person to know my deepest, darkest secrets. And you're absolutely right. It's that's holding us back. Oftentimes it's that safety net that's also holding us back. It's like, oh no, I'll skip this because I don't want other people to know about my business.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not like that.
No.
It's never been like that. I've been to so many of them, and I've, obviously facilitated the sound healings.
Yeah.
And it's never about who shares what. Absolutely not.
No.
Yeah.
And I think our intention, for example, is we're coming for ourselves. And why is this external part of us? That's also part of the problem, in the sense of when we show up for ourselves, nothing matters.
Yeah.
And so what?
So what?
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So Chandvi, you do so much for everyone. Like we've just spoken about all the amazing healing modalities that you use to help people heal. How do you protect yourself? Because at the end of the day, you're probably taking on some of these energies too. So how do you stay grounded and rooted and protect your energy from this?
Yeah, I think I've definitely fallen into a space where I haven't done spiritual hygiene and I've been really sick. So for me, this is like one of the most important things. And I think this is where also, my rhythm of the day comes in. So before any ceremony or session, I meditate, I kind of smudge my space. I love smudging. It kind of just neutralizes everything that perhaps is in my space or in the actual space. And also just having my own intention, like what am I here to do? What am I here to offer? And why am I doing this? Because when I have clear intention, I know how I need to show up and what I need to do. And then comes the energetic party that happens during the ceremony. I always have to remind myself that I am the conduit of light. And when I'm a conduit or a vessel, then nothing that is not mine can be on me.
Beautiful.
And it just flows through me and out. So whether it's out back to its origin or it's out into Mother Earth or wherever it needs to go. But nothing stays on me and nothing is meant to go on anybody else in the space. So I'm very conscious of how the energies or the external things are moving in the space. And then I think the last thing that I do is, there's other things like, grounding, saltwater baths, which are really good. But for me, one of the most important things after a ceremony is to really reflect on me. Was I triggered in any moment? Did something that happened move me within? Did something big happen that I couldn't or didn't address? And that kind of shows me that, you need to work on something here. And when I work on that in my own sessions or whatever it may be, then I can now show up in a better way. And for me, that's the most important, because I feel like I need to be in the most clear, most grounded space when I'm holding space. And I can't let my own inner stuff come into the space, no matter how hard it can be. It can come up, of course, but to be that clear vessel is the most important. And protection, the way that I protect myself is you've seen me opening the space. I ask the elements, the archetypes, the unseen places to hold protection for all of us.
Yeah.
And then so do they hold protection for me as well.
And it's so beautiful when you do that. I absolutely love it. What else haven't we spoken about today, Chandvi, that we need to speak about?
Oh.
We've covered most of the things that we wanted to cover today. And I'm just so grateful that I got this opportunity to have you here again for the second time. And guys, if you've not heard her first episode with me, do go back to season 1 and listen to it, and definitely listen to this one. Last thing, how can people reach out to you? Let's say if they want to join a ceremony with you, or if they want to book a family constellation or a regression therapy with you, because now you're completely based here in Nairobi.
Yes.
And I know that more and more people need people like you. We need more and more people like you. We need more and more healing, especially in 2026.
Yes. The best place to find me is on Instagram at Therapy with Chandvi, or on my website, chandvisha.com.
Okay, and then I'll add those to the show notes also below so that people can just click on them and use that. Thank you so much for being here today and imparting all this amazing knowledge on not just me, on everybody.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Love you.